I just heard today that Greg has officially been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize next year. So please help me welcome the next Nobel Peace Prize recipient, Greg Mortenson.
Thanks, Wendy. Well, thank you. Well, thanks, Susan. And again, I'd really like to thank the kids for coming. It's really special to have you with me and with us tonight. And I'd like everyone here to give the students a big round for the incredible work they did. Thank you. Again, I'd like to thank the Unity Center and Pastor Wendy Craig Purcell. Thank you so much. It's really a great honor for all the help you've done to help us out this evening. And again, Susan, thank you. Warwick's Books. I've been working for hundreds of hours and answering thousands of emails and phone calls, so I really appreciate it. So I'd like to thank Chef Cruz, Isabella, and Isabel's Cantina. She's probably working in the back, but let's give her a big round for all the help she's done tonight. And I'd also like to thank the veterans in the military. I had a great honor to spend some time with the military today, and previously in San Diego we had I've been here several times to help the military and also up at Camp Pendleton, so it's a great honor to have you here. And I'd like to thank AUWs and the churches, and thank you. The many churches and synagogues and the mosques and places of worship. And a very special thank you to the book clubs, and especially the women's book club, so thank you very much. Well, I visit about 200 schools a year, from kindergarten through the Air Force Academy, both public and private schools. And the first question I ask students, and I'm going to ask the students from Arroyo Vista today, the same question: how many of you have spent a lot of time with your grandpa or grandma or some old people talking about when they were kids? Maybe the Depression or World War II or the Vietnam War or Civil Rights Movement. That's incredible. That's about, what, 60%? You know, anybody here want to guess what the average is in the U.S. pretty consistently? 10%. Somebody said 10%. Very good. It's 10%. It goes from 5 to 20%. And I think that's a great tragedy. If I ask the same question in Pakistan or Afghanistan, 90% or 100% of the kids put their hands up. And the reason I think it's a tragedy is because we've lost the tradition where we can learn about our heritage, our culture, our traditions, our faith, and many of the important lessons that we learn in history. And I think it's so important that we reconnect with our elders. And that's one of the same things that I advise in Afghanistan or Pakistan to the U.S. military or to development groups, is that it's imperative that we rebuild the relationships between the elders and the youth. And one thing we do in our schools is we have the elders come in twice a week and talk to the kids. And it's the kids' favorite class to spend some time with the elders. Do you like talking to your grandpa and grandma or some old people? Pretty cool? Yeah? Okay. They mostly agree. I also think the real hope for peace is in our children. So, again, I also like to thank Valerie and KPBS and the libraries and teachers, and I'll get all of you in by the end of the evening. But I think the real hope for peace is our children. So before I begin, my daughter Mira was going to be with me, but she had to go back and catch up with her schoolwork. So I'm going to play with you a short DVD, and it's an interview between my daughter Mira and Tom Brokaw, who has recently moved to Montana.
Hi, I'm Amira Mortenson to interview Tom Brokaw about his book, The Greatest Generation. I'll interview him at his lovely ranch in Montana. I'll talk to him about youth empowerment and how our generation can become the next greatest generation. So can you tell me about the first fundraising letter my dad sent you?
Well, you know, I kind of remember it because I get a lot of letters from people who are asking for things, but what caught my attention about your father was that he was a climber, and I was doing some of that at the time, and I sent him $100. And my daughter, who has done a lot of work around the world, now says to me, "That's so unfair. You get all that credit for just $100. At least I got on the board, and Greg was able to not just use my $100, but he was able to start from there to get more people to think about what he was doing." Mm-hmm. Your father, for me, is a personification of what we need his generation to be doing. I go around the country and talk to a lot of young people, and one of the things that I say to them, can't spend your entire life text messaging.
Yeah.
Or with the iPod in your ear. You have to put your boots on the ground, spend your nights in scary places, and get your hands dirty if you want to make a difference in this world. And Greg, more than almost anyone else I know now, has become the champion of that, and he is an inspiration to a lot of young people. You can have great nights in New York City and go to fancy places, but nothing is as rewarding as trying to make a little difference in someone's life.
Could you explain a little bit more about the Greatest Generation?
When I wrote The Greatest Generation, it was about a generation that went through the Great Depression. Times were really difficult. Mm-hmm. And they learned how to work together because they didn't have a lot. And they had to make common sacrifices. Then they went off to war. And they really had to work together then. They had to work together as military units, and at home they were making sacrifices. And those values defined the rest of their lives in many ways. I don't want any other generation to have to go through a Great Depression and a war to learn about sacrifice and common effort. You know, we learned on 9/11 that we're not an island, you know, that we're part of a much wider world, and the only way we can make that wider world work better for all of us is if we reach our hands out to those who have so much less and say, we're here to help. And do that not just on a tourist visa, come in and leave again.
Yeah.
You got to come and stay like your dad does and see it through.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think it's important for this generation and the next generation to know?
No, I think it's mostly this generation creating a dialogue within its generation. They don't need to hear more from people like me who are older. They can figure this out for themselves. They're so well educated, most of them. They have these marvelous tools now, the internet, and the ability to communicate with each other and to find common ground.
Mr. Brokaw, thank you for letting me interview and coming to your ranch today.
Listen, thank you for asking me to do this, and thank you for being part of that great family that you're part of.
Oh, no problem. Okay.
Thank you. Well, when I first wrote 3 Cups of Tea, actually, how many of you have read 3 Cups of Tea? Or, oh, maybe we don't even need to talk about it. I picked the title, which means the first cup. Do you know what the first cup of tea means? Wow, look at this. Okay, anybody? Stranger, very good. High five. Give him a big round. And second cup of tea? Your friend. And third cup? Family, very good. I'm glad there's kids here because the adults don't remember that sometimes. Very good. So I picked the title, but the publisher picked the subtitle. And they said it would be one man's mission to fight terrorism one school at a time. And although I'm a military veteran, I was very opposed to that because they said the real reason I do this is to promote peace. Well, thank you. Well, the publishers disagreed with me. So I went to New York, my first time there. It was pretty terrifying. But I summoned a jirga. It's like a tribal conference with a CEO and head of marketing and head of publicity, the whole entire publishing administration. And I tried to eloquently say why I want the subtitle to be one man's mission to promote peace one school at a time. Well, when I got done, they said, we understand what you're trying to say, but you need to learn a couple things about the publishing industry. Only 1 out of 8 books makes a profit for us, and 2/3 of all bestsellers are pre-chosen by the publisher.